Hello and welcome. This is Sudarshan Kannan from Avaya Services. This video explains the key parameters of nailed up control blocks through Dunup tool in Avaya Proactive Contact. Nailed up control block essentially shows all the in progress acquires and established acquires. Suppose I select option 1 for all data, the all data option would show me all the nailed up blocks completely, covering each and every parameter for an in progress acquire call and an established acquire call. It's pretty easy to determine where one block ends and the next one begins. The blocks are separated by dotted lines. This is the first block and these are the parameters of the first block. Then there is this dotted line as a partition, and then the same set of parameters and different values are seen for the next block, which is from here to here. So these are the two blocks. In this example, I have two acquire calls running on the system. Okay, let me go back to the first block. Yeah, so I have two acquire calls running on the system. This is the nailed up control block for the established acquire call, whereas the subsequent one is the nailed up control block for the in progress acquired call. Established acquire call is the one which is answered by an agent and which is connected to an agent extension, whereas an ongoing or an in progress acquire call is the one which is hit the acquired domain but still not reached an end agent extension, which is this. Let's see the fields in the nailed up control block and understand each of the fields. Call ID here for the first block is 1, for the second block the call ID is 17. Call ID is the acquire call ID which is ongoing or completed. This is the first block. Since it is answered by an agent, this is an established or completed acquire call, and the call ID for this acquire call is 1. This call ID will match the call ID in the CSTA trace. User ID is the user ID of the agent. This is the internal integer ID which PDS maintains for each agent. User extension is the agent extension number. It is blank if an agent is not hooked up yet to an acquire call. In this case, the agent is hooked up to the acquire call, so you see a valid extension number. In the second block, you would see the extension as blank. And similarly, the user ID would be -1 if it is not yet hooked up to an agent, and it would have a valid positive integer value if it is hooked up to an agent or connected to an agent. Username is the agent login name on the PDS. It is 0 in the nailed up control block if an agent is not hooked up, and if an agent is hooked up, you would see the valid agent name there. So in the first block, which is an established acquire call, we see agent 2 for username. In the second block, which is an ongoing acquire call, we see the username as 0. Next is the domain address. dom_address is the domain address. Usually it's the acquire domain address of the domain group as specified in the DOM group data file. So in this case, it is 11011. This is the domain address for this particular nailed up control block, whereas for the second nailed up control block, the domain address again is the same acquire VDN. Group ID, which is the next parameter, is the domain group under which the domain belongs as per the DOM group data specification. So 11011 is the domain which belongs to the domain group DG1AGT as per the DOM group data configuration, and both these nailed up control blocks belong to the same domain and the same domain group. VDN is same as the domain address. It's more of the VDN number on the PBX. The domain address actually corresponds to the VDN number. Normally the domain address and the VDN numbers would be the same. Skylink is the gateway ID and it is usually 1. Let's look at both the blocks. It's the same here. Port ID is the headset port number. This particular nailed up control block was an acquire call that hit on headset port number 1. This means that, and this particular acquire call, that is call ID 17, this nailed up control block acquire call hit on port ID 17. In order to understand further parameters, let's look at the nailed up control definitions first. So we right now we saw the all data options. Let me show you the definitions which are printed as part of the DUNUP tool itself. Now we have these definitions like mode, state, ACD permission and ACD response. So option 3, we hit option 3 to see the definitions. We can see the general meaning of the integer values for mode, state, ACD perm and ACD response here. For example, for mode 1, the integer value 1 is for acquiring, 2 is for pre-releasing, 3 is for releasing and 4 is for aborting. For state, the integer value 1 is for inbound, 2 is for inbound pending, 3 is for outbound, 4 is for outbound pending and 5 is for not logged in. So mode basically correlates with the ACD mode field in the nailed up block. This mode and the integer values actually map to which field in the nailed up control block. They map to this particular field, ACD underscore mode. And in the second block, which I'm seeing here, the ACD mode is 1. Let's look at the ACD mode in the first block. It's again 1 here. In both cases, that is the established acquire call and the in progress acquire call, the ACD mode is 1. 1 means for acquiring, so it populates as 1 in both the cases. ACD RESP, this corresponds to ACD underscore RESP underscore status field in the nailed up block. Let's look at the value in this. ACD underscore RESP underscore status for the second block is 1. Let's see what it is for the first block. It is 0. So it is 0 for the established acquire call and it is 1 for the in progress acquire call. What it means is 0 means there is no response pending because it was an established acquire call. There's nothing pending there. Hence it carried the value 0 in the first block. In the second block, which was an in progress acquire call, it carried the value 1 because an acquire response from an agent extension was still pending. So nobody has still answered that acquire call. Let's look at state. State correlates with 6 parameters. You can map this, the understanding of each of the integer values under state to 6 parameters in the nailed up control block. And let me show you what those 6 parameters are. I'll show that in block 1 first. The parameters are online status, voice message status, FE notify status, trunk in use status, assign port status, these 5 in sequence, and the 6th one is the on job status. So these 6 parameters, the integer values that are populated for these 6 parameters can be understood by looking at the state definition under the nailed up definition options. The integer value 1 is for inbound, value 2 is for inbound pending, 3 is for outbound, 4 is for outbound pending and 5 is for not logged in. Block 1, which is an established acquire call, the online status is 3. So 3 corresponds to outbound. It means that this particular nailed up control block is already established and acquired for outbound. So the value 3 signifies that. And in the second block, the online status is 1, which is for inbound. Until the time some agent extension answers this call and the agent gets positively acquired for outbound, it will keep showing 1. Same is for the voice message status. It is 1 is for inbound, so it shows 1 in the second block and it shows 3 in the first block. 3 is for outbound, which means the voice message has already been played since the agent is already acquired. So voice message status means whether the voice message for inbound, which is the message 251, or for outbound acquired message 252 are played to the agent or not. In this case, message 252 is played for the agent got successfully acquired, and hence the value populated is 3. Whereas for the second control block, it is still 1, because the acquire call is still ongoing and there is no acquire message yet played. FE underscore note underscore status, it actually corresponds to FE notify status, which is the AGT IICB FE notify event. It corresponds to the AGT IICB FE notify event processing, which is seen in the agent API tran logs. In the first block, let's go to the first block for the established acquire call. For the established acquire call, this field FE notify status carries a value of 3. As we know, 3 is for outbound. It means AGT IICB FE notify event has been successfully processed for outbound for this particular control block, whereas for the next control block it is still in inbound. So until some agent answers this call, it will keep showing as inbound. Trunk in use status. Trunk in use is the next parameter. So trunk in use corresponds to the state of the headset trunk. If there is an acquire call going on a headset trunk and has still not completed acquire, then the trunk in use status would be 4. For uncompleted acquires, the trunk in use will be 4, which we can see in the second nailed up control block, whereas for a completed acquire, the trunk in use status will be 3, which corresponds to the fact that the agent has been acquired successfully for outbound via this particular headset trunk. Assign port status. This corresponds to whether or not a headset port is mapped to an acquire call. So 3 means a headset port is already mapped to the acquire call, whereas when a headset port is in use to still make an acquire call and the acquire process is still not complete, which is block 2, in that case assign port status gets shown as 1, and 1 is for inbound. So it keeps showing the values for inbound when the acquire process is still not completed or the acquire is still ongoing for that particular call ID. So from online status till trunk in use status, we can see that the values correspond to inbound, even though this is actually an acquire call ID. The values correspond to inbound because those are the initial values that get filled in the nailed up control block. Until the acquire call is answered, it will keep showing those inbound parameters. There's just one difference, that is the trunk in use status. It goes beyond the default and it says that it doesn't show inbound because the acquire call is ongoing. It shows outbound pending. It is still pending to be answered by an agent. It means that. So that value for an ongoing acquire call for trunk in use status parameter is 4, whereas for the other status parameters it is same as that for inbound, which is 1. The last parameter which correspond to the state definition is the on job status. It is 1 for an ongoing acquire call because there's no agent who has answered the call. There's no agent who has joined the job and answered that particular acquire call, so it would show as 1, which corresponds to the inbound integer value. And for the established acquire call, that on job status field would show as 3, which corresponds to outbound because the agent is on job and is successfully acquired for outbound. Thank you for watching.